time for the November meeting of the Wood County Board of Supervisors. We will call that to order. The clerk has already taken the roll. Now I'd ask Supervisor Hamilton, please come forward with the invocation. While Brad works his way up here, I'd ask the body to please rise and then we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning, everyone. Let us pray. Lord, thank you for another day that you have given us to do the work of the people of Wood County. Guide us to make good decisions that benefit all residents and keep the county moving forward. Keep in our hearts the compassion that we need for one another to advance the needs of the people that we represent. We'd like to thank all the ones who protect us from the harm from the local, state, and national level. Watch over and guide them as you do for us. Please acknowledge and pray for our veterans that have served this country as this past Veterans Day that we have seen. In this we pray, Lord. Amen.
Join the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good morning. I knew with the great summer and fall we had, it wouldn't be too long before we woke up to everything white out there. I hope everybody travels safe on the way here and will do so on the way back. A reminder to the public, it's the first real snowy day out there. Be careful. I've already saw one slide into somebody else this morning just on the way in. As we move into the packet, first thing to deal with is the minutes from the previous session. I have a motion by Hamilton. I have a second by Bry. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Any discussion on the minutes? Okay, we have a motion for approval and a second. All in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And that motion carries unanimously. Today we have no excusals, we have no resignations, we have a number of appointments which I'd like to take together without objection. Is there any objection to that?
No.
All right, seeing none. The South Central Library Board of Trustees, 3-year terms, Bill Clendenning and Susan Feet. The Veteran Service Commission, a 3-year term, Michael Fire. The Ethics Committee for 3-year terms, Matt Souza and Supervisor Jay Kahn. And the Civil Service Commission, a 5-year term, Lee Garrels. Supervisor Clendenning, the motion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like the Ethics Committee taken out of there because we're bringing that up at our Judicial Legislative Committee meeting and we're making changes to that. So if we could just hold those appointments for 1 month.
I'm going to ask, I have no problem with that, but I'm going to ask our corp counsel if that's appropriate or you make the changes afterwards. Peter, what's better?
Motion is to table.
There's not likely going to be a meeting of the Ethics Committee in the next month, Mr. Chair, so I don't see a problem with having a shortage of members with regards to the committee at this point. You can still be able to have a meeting because there's still enough members.
Okay, then I'll ask the body, is there any discussion, is there any objection to pulling that based on what Supervisor Clendenning just stated and holding that till next month's meeting or whenever is appropriate? Is there any objection? All right, so we're going to pull the Ethics Committee appointments out of there. So we have the Central Library Board of South Central Library Board of Trustees, Mr. Clendenning and Susan Feet, the Veteran Service Commission, Michael Fire, and the Civil Service Commission, 5-year term, Lee Garrels. I have a motion by Hamilton, a second by Lightman. Is there any discussion on those appointments? Any discussion? Supervisor Buck?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no problem with the names on there. But in the future, when we're going to put citizens on committees, I would like to do what we did on Health and Human Services and advertise so that the public, if there's somebody out there that would like to serve on some of these, and it's not necessarily pertaining just to this, just in general. Thank you.
I know on most of these here we do. Trent, do we on all of those? Because I know we did receive applications from the public on a number of these.
Yeah, when we have a vacancy, we do go out for applications or letters of interest, but when it's a re-up, we let the incumbents stay in if they wish to, if it's at the pleasure of the chair and the subsequent leader of the board.
Thanks for the input, Supervisor Bucky. All right then. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And that motion carries. Thank you very much, and thank you to those who have agreed to serve. Public comment. Do we have any public comment today? Is there any public comment? Please step forward to the microphone, identify yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Catherine Elford. I'm the new library director at the McMillan Memorial Library in Rapids, and I'm here to represent all of your Wood County libraries today. I just want to thank you all for your commitment to supporting the great libraries in our community. Over 30,000 people in Wood County have a library card. There's 6 libraries serving our community, and I just want to put in a plug to follow the recommendations from the operating committee to reimburse the libraries at 100%. Now, that 100% will mean so much to each library. More services, more programs, more materials. And I know that there's been a bit of a kerfuffle about the McMillan Library budget. So I'm here if you have any questions, but I just wanted to say from the Wood County Library Directors, thank you for your support.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Any other public comment? All right, we have no acknowledgement and recognitions. We have no special orders of business today, so with that being said, we'll move right into the packet. Page 6 in your packet is referrals for November. There were 3 of those, again, went to the appropriate committees or people. And then moving forward, page 7 begins the different informational meeting packets from the committee. So page 7 and 8, the Operations Committee meeting minutes of Tuesday, November 1st. That's on 7 and 8. We have monthly letter of comments from the county clerk on page 9, and I'll give him a second here. I think we had a really smooth election here in Wood County, Trent, as you shared with me. Want to make any comments?
Yeah, relatively smooth. I wouldn't call it an outstanding turnout. 4 years ago for a governor's race, we were over 80%. This year we were at 76, 77%. So I would say it was an outstanding turnout, but everything went relatively smooth, and we were able to certify that election for Wood County this morning. So very pleased with the way everything went.
Thank you. All right, moving forward, page 10 through 14, monthly letter of comments from the Human Resources Department. Page 15, Treasurer's Office, Employee Wellness on page 16, and then that brings us to the first resolution in the packet on page 17.
This will be Resolution 22-11-1 to establish Wood County's tax levy for 2022 collectible in 2023. Fiscal note, this resolution establishes the tax levy for 2023 Wood County budget. The total tax levy is $32,215,587,000, the components of which are listed below in the resolution.
And motion by Supervisor Clendenning, and second by Supervisor Hamilton. Any discussion on the resolution? Any discussion? I ask you to please vote.
Supervisor Rosar.
Yes.
And that resolution passed 18-1. 18-1. All right, moving forward, next resolution, page 18.
Mr. Winch. This will be Resolution 22-11-2, adoption of the 2023 Wood County budget. Fiscal note, this resolution adopts the 2023 Wood County budget of $138,749,128, including the appropriations, revenues, and use of fund balances proposed by the Operations Committee as outlined in the 2023 Wood County proposed budget document.
And a motion by Supervisor Hamilton, a second by Supervisor Bride. Any discussion on the resolution? Any discussion? I ask you to please vote.
Supervisor Rosar.
Yes.
And that resolution passed 19-0. 19-0. Trying a second to catch up here, and then we're going to move forward in the packet, page 19, a third resolution from the Operations Committee.
This will be Resolution 22-11-3 to amend the 2022 budget for property and liability insurance for deductible expenditures not included in the 2022 budget process. Fiscal note, the transfer of $50,000 from available Wood County contingency to property and liability insurance function At the time of this request, the funds available in contingency are $578,013. The adjustment to the budget totals $50,000.
And I have a motion by Hamilton and a second by Whitman. Any discussion? Any discussion? Ask you to please vote.
Supervisor Rosar.
Aye.
That resolution passed 19-0. 19-0. All right, moving forward in your packet on page 20 and 21, minutes of the Health and Human Services Committee from October 27th. We have an update, the monthly report from the Human Service Committee beginning on page 22, and that runs all the way to page 31. 22 to 31. At page 32, we have a resolution from Health and Human Services as well as the Judicial and Legislative.
This will be Resolution 22-11-4, encouraging the United States Congress and the Wisconsin Legislature to pass legislation granting the Hmong veterans of the Vietnam War access to the same veteran benefits received by United States veterans. Fiscal note is none.
Motion by Clendenning, a second by Zerflu. Any discussion? Any discussion? Let's vote.
Supervisor Rosar.
Yes.
And that passed 18-1. 18-1. All right, that was pages 32 and 33. Moving forward in the packet, minutes of the Public Safety Committee beginning on page 34, and those run through page 37, 34 to 37. We have minutes from the Seed Committee. Their meeting of November 2nd begins on 38 and runs through page 43, 38 to 43. We have their minutes from Wednesday, November 9th on page 44. We have Golden Sands Resource Conservation Development Council minutes beginning on 45, and those run through 53, 45 through 53. Central Sands Groundwater Collaborative meeting, Monday, August 22nd, beginning on 54. Those run 54, 5, and 6. Monthly letters, comments from the extension on 57, and then running through page 60, 57 through 60, UW extension. Staff report from Land and Water, beginning on 61, and that runs through page 68. 61 through 68 from Land and Water. The Citizens Wood County Groundwater Group meeting of Monday, October 17, 69, 70, and 71. Monthly update from Planning and Zoning, beginning with Director Grunenberg's on 72, and that runs through page 76. 72 through 76. Minutes of the Judicial and Legislative Committee from November 4th, 77, 78, and 79. Minutes from the Criminal Justice Task Force meeting of June 15th on 80, 81, and 82. Page 83, an update from the Child Support Agency. Can't get these separated, I'm sure Peters is after that. Update on 84 from Corp Counsel Kastenholz. A little bit of update there on opioid settlement money on 85. You know, just, we're still working on this. This is something that was led by Counties Association, Attorney Dickinson, as well as Andy Phillips and some others, and there's a fair amount of money coming forward from these settlements. And Sue Smith, formerly Sue Kumferman, if you're not used to Smith yet, sits on that task force at the state level where they're looking at how this money is going to be best spent. It's not going to be a directive from anybody, but it's going to be some suggestions as to how to do this. And a little bit of update here of where that money's coming from and how much that may be in the future. Peter, thanks for acting on that in a timely manner. Criminal Justice Department, their update, 86 and 87. The Highway Infrastructure and Recreation Committee, and this was your tour, I assume, Jake, on page 88.
Yes.
Their minutes from November 3rd on 89 and 90. An update from the Highway Commissioner, beginning on 91, and that runs through page 95. monthly letter of comments from the Parks Department, 96 through 100. And then we get to the PIT committee minutes beginning on page 101. And because there's going to be a resolution in here that deals with the real estate transaction, the possibility of a sale of property, I'm involved with those companies. I know the agents. I'm going to recuse myself from any discussion or vote on these. And at this point in time for the PIT minutes and resolution, I'm going to turn this over to Vice Chairman Ballenstein.
All right, pages 101, we have the minutes from the PIT committee October 18th. 102 through 104, we have the PIT committee from November 6th, followed by IT comments and our facilities manager comments, which now brings us to page 109B, which will be your resolution.
So, Madam Vice Chair, since this was a late arriving resolution, you did not have this in your packet, it was on your desk this morning. Does the board wish for me to read the entire resolution to you, or did you get a good look at it before? Supervisor Zerflo,
I would prefer it be read.
I can do that. Is there any objection from the board? Okay. This will be Resolution 22-11-5. To authorize Property Information Technology Committee to negotiate the sale of the 12th Street property to Caston Properties LLC. Fiscal note, undetermined amount of revenues and placing property back on tax roll. Whereas, the county-owned property at 2611 12th Street South, Wisconsin Rapids, sometimes known as the Unified Services Building, has been up for sale for several years and is currently listed for sale via a real estate firm for $399,000. And whereas, the county has received an offer to purchase the property from Caston in the amount of $225,000. And whereas, the Realtor has advised the county that Caston is in a hurry to conclude negotiations on the property and that time is of the essence. And whereas, it would be more practical for the county board to delegate to the facilities manager, subject to approval of the property committee, the authority to negotiate and finalize the terms of sale of the property to Caston without the need to return to county board. Now therefore be it resolved, the Wood County Board of Supervisors hereby resolves to, number one, authorize the facilities manager to negotiate with Caston Properties LLC the terms for sale of the property at 2611 12th Street South, Wisconsin Rapids. 2, authorize the county clerk to execute the deed and any other documentation to close the sale of the property upon approval by the Property and Information Technology Committee of the terms negotiated by the facilities manager. 3, the revenues from the sale of property shall be deposited in the maintenance fund.
We have a motion by Supervisor Lucky, second by Supervisor Hamilton. Any discussion? Supervisor Clendening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be voting against this for several reasons. One of them is that we're thinking of a child support agency for child care rather. And we're thinking of this building. And all of a sudden, this has been on the market for many years. I'd say 3-4 years. Been on the market. We've lowered the price on it. And all of a sudden, we get a resolution barely on timely as far as I'm concerned. I can remember when I wanted a water resolution before this committee. And on Wednesday, we went to the clerk with the resolution to be put in the packet. We told we were 22 minutes late, and we could not put it in the packet, or we could not put it on the desk. And here this is before us. I think we're rushing into this. I think if the people want to start out at what we have for sale, that would be probably a little different, but I don't see us rushing into this. So I will be voting against it. Thank you.
Mr. Corp Counsel, without, again, speaking this, maybe you can explain what occurred in the meeting without using numbers, because I think this is deeper than maybe the resolution on its surface is.
So Mr. Chairman, you're asking
not for a procedural explanation as to what happened late last week with regards to the offer coming in, but with regards to what was going on at the Oversight Committee today?
I don't think your microphone is on.
I can't get away with that.
Yeah, I think, Peter, that clarification and the fact that the resolution does not indicate an acceptance of the number is what we're looking at. And I'm not sure that's clear.
Okay. So I'll take that part first, Mr. Chairman. So the resolution does suggest that doesn't suggest, if it's approved, it would authorize the Oversight Committee to take action to control the sale of the property. You'd be delegating that authority. And the Oversight Committee did meet this morning, and they did pass a motion in closed session, so I won't get into the specifics as far as numbers go, but that motion did authorize the facilities manager, Ruben, to work with the realtor to come to certain terms, and if those terms are met, then the county clerk would be authorized to execute the deed that would then sell the property. So if you approve this resolution here now, then things are in the works that this property could be sold before the end of the year. If you're not satisfied with that type of process, or you want this to come back to county board or something like that, then you can require that, and by saying that we're not going to approve this or going to amend it to allow the clerk, strike that, the facilities manager just to negotiate. Sometimes real estate matters, time is of the essence, and people need the property for a certain reason, and apparently that's the case here, and so I would be concerned if I were you, concerned on your behalf as my client, that you don't want to squelch a deal because you didn't act fast enough, or because the county board doesn't meet often enough, or it's difficult to call county board meetings mid-month, so to speak, or at the end of a month. As far, and I'm not sure if I've covered everything you wanted to have addressed. I'm not sure who would address here, the chairperson, but Madam Chairwoman. With regards to the process here that was complained about, this information was brought to my attention and a few others. I think it was on Thursday or Friday of last week, and so a number of us got on the phone at the same time to get things aligned, because the realtor indicated that, again, time was of the essence. They wanted this before the board this month, not today now, and so Trent was on the line, Ruben was on the line, I was on the line, and we decided that it would be appropriate to go ahead and amend the agenda to identify that there would be a resolution that would be presented to the board today, and if there wasn't, there wasn't. It wasn't a problem if there wasn't, but if there was, you had to have public notice of that. So that public notice did meet the statutory timeframes as far as that goes. You don't have to actually have that document in front of you, just like you have the ability now to amend that document if in fact you want to. So the county clerk does have a policy with regards to presenting information so that it can be included in the packet, and periodically there are exceptions made that deviate, I think, from that policy, or at least practice, but do comply with the law, and the clerk might be better able to expound upon that. My concern is that things comply with the law. I also recognize that the county clerk has a big packet to put together. This one's actually smaller than most. Often they reach 200 pages or more, and you can't just wait for everybody to come in at the last minute and submit documents, or things aren't going to work right. So I think we need to try to respect what happens with regards to the county clerk in his office and getting the packets together, both the meeting packets and especially the county board packet, but recognize that things are going to happen periodically. Something could happen with regards to your jail project that would need to come back before you folks, and it might be last minute, but we want you folks to be involved in that decision-making process as soon as possible. I've put most of you to sleep, and I've done my job by elaborating enough. I'm not sure if there are any more questions with regards to this.
We'll go to our committee clerk, following our supervisor, Fisher.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, or Madam Chair, Vice Chairperson, I appreciate it. Those policies that Peter referenced are actually your rules. They're county board rules, and you pass them and I follow them. So it's not my policy per se. How it gets put together is my policy, but the timeline is set by you and your rules that you have for me. It should be noted, Mr. Clendenning's complaint about a clerk was not me. That predated my tenure in office. That was a different clerk. So I just wanted that to be known that he might mind to stab me, but it was not me. I did not refuse him because there is a rule that allows for resolutions to come in up until Friday. So.
We have Supervisor Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I want to make a few comments. First of all, I'd like to suggest moving forward, every time the attorney gets up, you put the 3-minute timer up. So, because he's kind of long-winded. But beyond that, I have no problem with moving forward with this. And I have actually no problem with giving the Oversight Committee, essentially delegating it to the committee. I think when we created the Property Information Technology Committee, that's the purpose of the committee, is to let them really oversee our property, our information, our technology, in many ways our infrastructure. So I think they're doing that on our behalf, and I sat in on the closed session and was comfortable with where things are. The only other comment I'd like to make is a child care facility was brought up. I mean, here at Wood County, we are definitely talking about child care. There have been conversations at the Health and Human Services Committee. I know the ARPA committee has had a presentation. I don't know if anyone has ever really designated the 12th Street building as a potential use, nor do I know if it really would logically be the best choice. After sitting through the last ARPA committee, where we had a phenomenal presentation from the health department and other partners, it sounds like to have such a facility really would take a very unique infrastructure, unique building, and I don't know if this 12th Street property really would be the ideal location. So thank you.
Any further comment?
Madam Vice Chairman.
Go ahead, Donna.
Thank you. Just for a little background on this building was built in 1986 at a cost of $600,000, and the Unified Services used this building for 30 years to provide services to the people of Wood County. You know, when I think about, and I will be supporting this resolution, but my principle is, how long do we hold on to property and not get it back on the tax roll? We had this discussion when we sold our group homes at a considerable loss that we owned in Marshfield. And I think about this when we tax deed properties, because the goal is to get properties back on the tax roll. So I think the principle that a lot of us have supported over the years should be applied to this resolution in order to get this property back on the tax rolls. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you. Supervisor Langham.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. So I just wanted to get a little bit more into the details of what Supervisor Clendenning and Supervisor Fisher alluded to at that ad hoc ARPA funding committee meeting. When we talked about the daycare center at the 12th Street location, one of the things that was brought up was the need for replumbing and probably refurnishing for little people. But we never really got into that to the extent I would have liked to, and that was barely 2 weeks ago. So when I saw this on my desk this morning, I read it several times, and it's like, man, this is coming awfully fast. And a wise man once said to me that when he feels pressure, he moves away from it. So I don't like this. I'm going to be voting no on it. And I also think it should go back to the county board. I guess we have a meeting in, 5 weeks now? But it would still be before the end of the year. I'll be voting no. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Any further comment? All right, let's vote.
Yeah, where do you find those?
Supervisor Rozar?
Where do you find them?
Yeah,
All right, and that passes 13-5 with 1 abstention. I will pass it back to you, Chair Plummer.
Thanks, it's really hard to keep your mouth shut. But, especially when your background is in that field, and we're dealing with those kind of issues, but as, Peter and I have had conversations for many, many years, and if push comes to shove, he needs to defend me, so when he gives me advice, I adhere to that advice, so thank you, Peter. ADRC minutes, Thursday, September 8th, on page 110 and 111. The ADRC minutes, their Finance Committee, on 112 and 113. The Marshfield Fairgrounds Commission meeting of October 13th, on page 114. Adam, sorry, Supervisor Fisher.
Thank you. I just wanted to get up and make a request under the minutes of the Marshfield Fairgrounds Commission. I know there have been some conversations at the commission level about wanting to get a financial report from them to talk about whether or not the county would want to participate in taking out further debt for future projects. I know the city of Marshall just recently requested someone from the Central Wisconsin State Fair to come and give a presentation and also bring some financial documentation for them to review. So knowing that the city is doing that, I would like to request that someone from the fair also come to the county board, give a similar presentation, and also bring some financials so we can see how the fair is operating and if we want to continue lending money into the future. Thank you.
Supervisor Clendenin?
I would have made such arrangements for that, but they didn't have a meeting this month. The first Monday of the month, there was no meeting, so I don't know if they're having meetings or not. So, but I will bring that forward to a meeting and see if we can have that done. Thank you.
No, this is a good point that Supervisor Fisher brings up. I attended the last meeting because there was some concern there as well. We've asked for these documents in the past. I think they'll be forthcoming. I also had a letter from the city stating the same, that they had the same, I don't want to call it necessarily concerns, but requested the same information, so I'm sure that'll be forthcoming. The other thing I asked is that they notice these meetings through the county clerk as well, because I think we had one meeting where I'm not sure it was noticed, and I don't even think you had a quorum for that meeting, and so that was another thing that we asked, and I think that's going to happen in the future, so appreciate it. Supervisor Clendenin?
Yes, and they've had meetings where there isn't a quorum, but they say as long as we don't discuss anything or make a motion on it, it's all right. And when I said no, there was an indication that they don't come under the rules of, that 501c3 does not have to conform to county board rules. And I said, as long as there's a government entity in that, you do. So there's a lot of problems with it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So to that point, I know I've heard that. I think it'd be good if, now I'm regretting that I made fun of our legal counsel because I need them. I think it would be wise to have our corp counsel maybe have a discussion with the Fair Association about the fact that they are a quasi-governmental entity, and maybe a formal request from him to have them come to a future county board meeting to give a presentation as well. Thank you.
And you wanted to answer that.
No, he doesn't have to answer that. I know the answer.
I was gonna start the timer.
Never mind, he's asleep.
All right, no, that's noted, this is something that has come to the attention of both the city and the county, and we'll certainly move forward on this. So, any other comments on the Fairgrounds Commission meeting? All right, the Wood County Library Board, April 28th, 1:15 and 1:16. Again, Wood County Library Board, 1:17 and 1:18. Supervisor Clendenning.
Thank you. I would just say something about the Wood County Library Board. There was something went on at that meeting that I very much object to, and so does the other member of the South Central Library. They made some rules and regulations that do not have the truth in them about the county library system and how South Central Library controls them. So we're hoping we have a meeting Friday down in Madison at the South Central Library. And me and Susan Feith and I will be going down there. And we're gonna try to straighten some of this stuff out. We hope we make it back, so.
Sounds good. Supervisor Clendenning, did Susan Feith accept the presidency or chairmanship of that, or has that election occurred?
No, she did not accept that. She withdrew from it, but she's gonna, with the appointment, she's going to stay on.
Okay, thank you. All right, page 119 in your packet, the ARPA Ad Hoc Funding Committee meeting of October 31st. The Jail Construction Ad Hoc Committee meeting of October 18th and 120. And before I get to this last resolution in the packet, we dealt with the budget today as we move forward. And Supervisor Clendenning mentioned it. You know, our finance department does a super job, but we also, the operations committee, and more specifically Supervisor Wagner, this is not a 1 month, a 2 month, 3 month process. This is something where they meet constantly. Budgets are somewhat fluid documents to some extent. We're constantly looking at these. It isn't we looked at it in July and formalized it in November and away we go. So again, to all of the committees, then the operations committee where they flow through the department heads and our finance department. Again, a sincere thank you, because I sit through a number of these types of meetings in other counties. And the process was pretty smooth. It was well done. We face many of the similar situations that other counties do, but I think we deal with them very, very well. So thank you so much. As we move forward, the last resolution in the packet is relating to the life and public service of Dave Goetz. And I don't know, I served with Dave. He served on our finance committee for years. He was a numbers guru. I don't know how, David, his service to the county as an employee and then to the board was significant. One of the things, he became a very good friend over time, but one of the things I always got a kick out of is David got older and didn't travel to some of those conferences and conventions. Every time when I left, he'd say, "Bring me back some pens." I'd bring him back a handful of pens every time. At one point I said, "Dave, how many pens do you need?" Because he probably had 200 or 300 of them by this time. But a tremendous public servant, both as an employee and then as a county board supervisor, somebody who really truly had the best interests of the county in mind. So I'd ask the clerk to please read that resolution.
This will be Resolution 22-11-6 relating to the life and public service of David M. Goetz.
Okay, I have a motion by Hamilton and a second by Zerflu. All in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
And I'd like to note that that is unanimous, and I'd ask the body to please rise and stand silent for a minute in respect to the passing of David Goetz. Thank you. All right, next meeting, Tuesday, December 20th. Got holidays coming up. One other thing I wanted to mention too, Veterans Day was just last week. We just passed through there, and I know we note this all the time. I have an event tonight where I'll certainly recognize those veterans. But as I sit here up here, because I sat out there for years, I realized that I didn't have the ability to make comments, to be able to exercise our rights of freedom without those veterans and the sacrifices they make. You know, there are people, due to circumstance, that are victims of tragedy. You see that around the country every day, and then there's heroes, those people who voluntarily walk into the face of danger, into harm. And can I just real quickly, as the folks out there, ask those in the room that are veterans to please rise? I know I have a number of them, and I have one who's going to serve in here in another week. I'm going to thank you, and I'd ask for a round of applause for these people who helped. Thank you. Now, also note, and I sent a note to the considerable effort that Supervisor Butke made in the article in the paper last week that recognized. So anyway, thank you, veterans. Thank you to all the board members. We've got a holiday season coming up. Thanksgiving right around the corner. Hunting season. Be safe. Does anybody else have anything that needs to come before the board before we adjourn? All right, then I will declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.